Good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you today. I'm going to do a presentation that's called a Pikachka. It's basically about 20 slides in 20 seconds. I will be done in about 7 minutes then, so you can set your watches. I'm an academic. I love words. I'm a pastor. I love passion. You're going to hear me talk fast. You'll just have to deal with it. Oh, wait, can you go back one slide, please? Okay, when I tell you to hit it, you can hit it. All right, go ahead. The youth ministry experiment has come of age. It's graduated from grassroots institutions, from untrained youth workers, maturing into thoughtful sages able to wax eloquently on theology, sociology, psychology, and pedagogy pertaining to adolescence. And this has brought respect, yet it has also brought criticism. After all, if the youth ministry experiment is to be successful, can youth ministry honestly say that it has delivered on its promises? Are we better off than we were a generation ago? The proof, it seems, should be in the missional pudding. Critics are looking at that pudding, and the ingredient that they believe is missing are young people in the church. Some proclaim they've left the church, and this is one more eschatological sign that it is the end of the world as we know it. I think this anxious energy towards young people has been channeled in the wrong direction, distracting us from critical self-reflection. While ministry work continues to focus on adolescence, many studies have looked beyond the adolescent years, trying to gain insights into youth advocacy by seeking to understand emerging adults' faith journeys. Many wonderful organizations and researchers have begun to take seriously the spiritual and religious portraits and journeys of emerging adults, and we all have directly or indirectly benefited from their contributions. For clarity, let me define emerging adulthood for you. Emerging adulthood is one segment of an extended in-between period between childhood and adulthood. Researchers identify this period as those ages 18 up to 30 who are experiencing unprecedented freedom and pressure as they make their way toward adulthood. Emerging adults and their spirituality has also been a focus of my research, particularly in the realm of undergraduate spiritual struggle. I conducted research on undergraduates who were upperclassmen, attended a public university, self-identified as coming from conservative or evangelical backgrounds, and claimed to have experienced a shift or change in their religious and spiritual outlooks while at college. Spiritual struggle is more than a gentle change or a slight discomfort. It is typically experienced as a seismic shift that has been described as suffering, betrayal, doubt, questioning, struggle, anger at God, despair, crisis, dark night of the soul, a disorienting experience, a pivotal moment, shipwreck, or conversion. Through my research, I discovered that spirituality in general and spiritual struggle specifically are navigated intellectually, emotionally, and relationally. All are interrelated, but most ministry types equate spiritual struggle with intellectual struggle, limiting their resources to an apologetics course, a book, or a killer sermon series. In my research, I learned that intellectual spiritual struggle is caused by information and experiences that did not fit one's view of the world. A majority of college students express doubt over aspects of their religious and spiritual assumptions. They acknowledge the incongruencies they had between their religious beliefs and their educational discoveries, and most admitted being unable or unwilling to integrate their beliefs to relieve the dissonance. Regarding emotional aspects of spiritual struggle, students first experience negative feelings of fear, guilt, shame, and anxiety, which when worked through can lead to positive feelings of relief, freedom, energy, and creativity. Most students in my study reported only experiencing negative feelings, with few who had experienced the positive, hopeful side of spiritual struggle. Regarding the relational part of spiritual struggle, I discovered that students' intellectual struggles were especially hard on them emotionally because they were concerned about the relational consequences of their questions, doubts, and new beliefs. They would say things like this: I don't want to hurt my parents, or disappoint my youth pastor, or anger my church. To summarize, the conservative evangelical upperclassmen that I interviewed experienced spiritual struggle primarily as intellectually disorienting, emotionally negative, and relationally disconnecting. Before I go any further, maybe we should just let that sink in. And how have we seen churches respond to emerging adults with spiritual struggles? With statements like, "Where are you? Why'd you leave us? If you ask that question, you must not believe in the Bible. When are you going to grow up? You're just a bunch of nuns. You're just a bunch of duns." Imagine what that feels like to an emerging adult at her or his most vulnerable intellectual, emotional, and relational state. Research shows that emerging adults who feel stuck in their struggles experience prolonged anxiety, poor grades, depression, and self-hurting. And churches have responded by providing college-age and singles ministries that are, at best, no different than youth group for 20-somethings. What they need is something more, and what I'm suggesting is something most. What they need is a relationship defined. I want you to think back to a relationship you had or a relationship that you're in where you had or have to have a DTR, a define the relationship moment. This is crucial for any relationship to move forward. Two parties define where they stand, what they're committed to, what they can expect from each other, and what they hope in the relationship. The advantage of children's ministry and youth ministry is that child, teenager, and church know what they can expect from each other. For emerging adults in the church, all bets are off. There is no fit unless you get married. There is little reconciliation of recognition of spiritual journeys. There is no defining the relationship, and the relationship dissolves and fades away. Worse, ministry programming that repeats youth group for emerging adults promotes formation backwards praxis. Emerging adults are asked to relate to the church like adolescents again. Formation forward requires a redefined relationship. Formation forward requires ministry practice that supports maturity, not regression. It seems to me that if all churches' desire is emerging adults in their programmatic seats, emerging adults will merely be tolerated until they get with a program. After all, who are the nuns? Maybe people who will have none of the games and are in search of a spirituality that is real and reliable. And who are the duns? Maybe people who are done with playing religious games of attendance without participation and membership without relationship. But let me be clear. Having a DTR doesn't mean emerging adults will stay in your church. A DTR may compel them to leave. My research has highlighted that the need for college students to differentiate themselves from familiar church experiences, parents, and adult relationships as they begin to form their own opinions about faith, life, and purpose. Leaving then can actually be a faithful step, one that faith communities can celebrate, not bemoan. Thus, the most important relationship for a Christian emerging adult can have maybe with the church, if the church is willing to redefine their relationship with them, if the church is willing to commit to a formation forward posture, and if the church is willing to transform itself. This will be good news for emerging adults, millennials, nuns, or duns, or whatever the next label is going to be, and this will be good news for the church. Thank you very much.